What's going on, everybody? It's Rick from Worms with Rick. This is my 5-gallon worm bin. This was made with 30 composting worms that I pulled out of my compost pile. The last time I counted there in here, there was 600 worms, and that was about a year ago. So it's going to be time to harvest this. This does have some big pieces still in here, but I'm still going to add this to my large casting container, and the worms can continue to work this over. So this will actually be the second time that I'm harvesting this since the creation of this bin. And if you'd like to see when I made it, let me know down in the comments. I did record it, but I just haven't edited it or posted it. Yeah, as you can see down there, there's still probably about a quarter of the container. Okay, so you can see there's still a little remnants in there. I'm okay with that because then that's going to help add bacteria to the next batch of bedding. This was actually just on top because I knew I was going to be harvesting soon, so I did not want to incorporate all this. I got some isopods, little pill bugs that were crawling around where I ended up putting this, so I want to make sure I got those guys back in. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a good blasting of some water. I can wipe down those castings that were on the side. Okay, so happy with that. With this all being fresh bedding, I will add some ground up eggshell for grit once the worms come back in. Yeah, so now this bedding can start getting inoculated with all those castings. And then when I add the worms back in, they'll be ready to start going to town on this fresh bedding. Yeah, so this is only the second time that I've dumped that bin completely out. As I had with the other one, you can see there's, hopefully, there's some rice holes in here that I added. These worms aren't huge. When I originally put them in, they were about the size of my European night crawlers, and you see the size that they are now, you know, but they are hungry little guys. I'm glad to see, with dumping this all out, how moist that lower level was, because I keep a cloth top on it, on the 5-gallon bucket, so it can dry out pretty quick. So I typically, when I add a little food, I am adding some moisture as well. Haha, here's a little bit of the some citrus peels, I guess from my last feeding with them. I'm going to actually drop them into that bucket so they can kind of keep breaking down in that new bedding. And there's a few worms on there too, so there's no problem with that all going back into the new bedding. So with how moist this does feel, I'm going to allow it to dry out a little bit, and then harvest it, and then just move the worms off to the side and add them back into the bin. I probably won't bring you along for the harvest. If that is something you guys are interested in seeing in the future, make sure you let me know down in the comments. But for this one, like I said, I'm just going to go ahead, harvest it, and then I'll bring you back as I'm re-adding the worms back into the bin. Okay, so I went ahead and I counted up the worms, and I got 735. This bin only started with 30 a couple years ago, but this bin definitely does not get a whole lot of love from me. It kind of goes anywhere from that 2 to 4 weeks without getting food and fed, and like now this is all changed out. This is the fresher bedding, so I will have to keep an eye on this to keep it moist for the worms, because that tends to happen quick with this. So I basically just have a cloth, old shirt, and a little string that I use as a lid for this. Let's go ahead and see if you can see some of these worms. I did add some cardboard to give them a little bedding. And because there's a bunch of worms and castings still in here, I'm going to spray a little water to see if I can entice some of them out. But I will just kind of leave the baiting cup upside down until hopefully the worms come out of there, and I can just wipe out the rest of the castings. Like I said, I will have to keep an eye on this to try to keep this a bit moister for the next month or two until some castings actually start really being produced, and then that should help to kind of maintain the moisture level in this bin. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to drop them down in the comments. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Everybody have a great day.